And now, let's join ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha as he takes us inside the Niger Delta.
Hello out there and welcome to the program. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. I'm your regular host, Mamode Akugha. We kickstart today's program with an update on measures taken so far by some state governments in the Niger Delta to check the spread of the coronavirus pandemic currently ravaging the global community. Staying with issues of public health, we bring you another report on what the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs is doing to check the prevalence of communicable and non-communicable diseases in the Niger Delta. The course of the program will also take a look at efforts by the Delta State government to develop young talents in the state. And finally, in today's package is an interview with COMRADE Sonny Ofehe, a Nigerian-born Dutch environmental rights activist whose activities focus on environmental degradation in the Niger Delta. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be right back after this timeout. Don't go away.
Introducing the new face of the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, NIMASA. We are charting the direction for a maritime and regulating the industry for a better, bigger, and more economically stable Nigeria. Evolved to serve you better. We are NIMASA. New face, rejuvenated service. NIMASA, changing the tides in your favor.
Welcome back. It's Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region. With confirmed cases of the coronavirus disease on the increase in the country, the fear of the dreaded scourge is now the beginning of wisdom for government at all levels and citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Both at the center and sub-national levels, frantic efforts are being taken to prevent the spread of COVID-19. In Rivers State, the government has set up a 5-man committee to create awareness for the prevention of the pandemic. After setting up the committee, the state government ordered an immediate closure of schools and placed a restriction on religious and social activities in the state. Governor Nyesom Wike also ordered a closure of all entry points into the state by road and sea as from 6 p.m. last Thursday, the 26th of March, 2020.
All non-Muslim borders will be closed. Level movements in and out of the state and now. In essence, no vehicle will leave Port Harcourt to any other state, and no vehicle will come in from any other state to the state.
In the wake of the first reported case of coronavirus in the country, the Delta State government had also set up a response team to keep the pandemic at bay. In addition to its public sensitization efforts, the Delta State government has mounted surveillance at critical entry points into the state to checkmate the possible entry of infected persons into the state. Right now, all hospitals across the state have been directed to designate isolated areas for possible detection and treatment for any reported case of the virus. Governor Akugha also took time out to visit some isolation centers in the state. The government and people of Bayelsa State are equally on their toes to prevent the spread of coronavirus to the glory of all lands. There is in place a multi-sectional COVID-19 task force chaired by Governor Doyediri himself to coordinate and implement the state's response to the pandemic.
It's our prayer that this pandemic has no place in Bayelsa. And the only way it will have no place here is that all of us as citizens, from the high to the low, we all now have to shut down.
And in Akwa Ibom State, the government has set up monitoring processes at various entry points into the state. One of such points is the Victor Atta International Airport, where a sophisticated screening facility has been provided to detect and prevent possible entry of infected persons into the state. It has equally provided functional ambulances and rapid response teams to move suspected or confirmed cases to an emergency operation treatment center at Ikotekpene.
The Emergency Operation and Treatment Center in Ikotekpene is ready to serve as an isolation and treatment center to receive and care for any confirmed case of COVID-19 infection, if at all it occurs.
On the 1st of March 2020, Ondo State government activated an interministerial committee to tackle coronavirus following its first confirmed case in neighboring Lagos State. The state, which is yet to fully recover from an outbreak of Lassa fever that claimed no fewer than 20 lives, have directed an indefinite closure of schools with effect from 20th March 2020.
There is no doubt that this global pandemic poses a real challenge to all nations. Yet, if we all collaborate effectively, we overcome it successfully.
These are indeed very difficult times for the Niger Delta, and indeed the rest of humanity, as the battle to end coronavirus continues. We can only urge governments and citizens across the globe to stay the course and remain vigilant until the battle is eventually won.
Inside the Niger Delta.
The Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs recently carried out a medical outreach program in Ohaji Egbema local government area of Imo State in line with its mandate to improve quality of life in the Niger Delta. Speaking at the event, the Minister of State for Niger Delta, Senator Omotayo Alashodura, said it was part of efforts to implement President Muhammadu Buhari's new vision for the Niger Delta. Correspondent Tekena Milfori completes the report.
The recent medical outreach program was organized by the Niger Delta Ministry to promote quality and affordable health care in Imo State. In collaboration with the Health Mission, the Niger Delta Ministry organized an enlightenment campaign on the prevention and treatment of diseases that had become prevalent in the Niger Delta region. Beneficiaries of the program also underwent general checkups and diagnosis, while prescriptions were made for diseases like malaria, typhoid, HIV/AIDS, and cancer.
A lot of communicable diseases, are banned now. And because of the poverty in the land, it is difficult for people to be able to access hospitals and get treated. What we are trying to do is to start something and probably ginger also the conscience of both the local government and the state to do likewise.
Minister of State for Niger Delta Affairs, Senator Omotayo Alashodura, noted that the medical outreach program was in line with President Buhari's new vision for the Niger Delta that was launched in 2016 after a series of engagements with the region's leaders and representatives.
I would like to restate the federal government of Muhammadu Buhari, the desire to ensure that the people of this region enjoy basic health care, and that government has made health care a priority area in its developmental plans for the Niger Delta area.
Some beneficiaries of the medical outreach program expressed their feelings about the federal government's intervention in public health, which had become a major source of concern in Ohaji Egbema and other oil-producing communities in the Niger Delta.
So let's thank Almighty God did to the federal government because they are doing a lot of things.
I'm very, very happy that they have come to our aid. They came to help us for our eye problem and some other cures.
Political leaders in Imo State, including Deputy Governor Placid Njoku, described the recent medical outreach program as a demonstration of the federal government's unwavering commitment to bring about sustainable development in the Niger Delta.
With the new programs and policies that His Excellency the President has initiated, there is no doubt that the Niger Delta people are going to have a breath of fresh air very soon.
The recent medical outreach program organized by the Niger Delta Ministry in Imo State is part of a comprehensive plan to include the Niger Delta in the federal government's universal health coverage policy.
Inside the Niger Delta.
In readiness for an inevitable post-oil economy, the government of Delta State is looking at building a knowledge-based economy that will be driven by the creativity of its citizens. To this end, the state recently organized a talent development summit for young Deltans in Asaba, the Delta State capital. Correspondent Lovely Ofigo was there.
The summit, organized by Delta State Government through the Office of the Senior Special Assistant on Talent Development, was a convergence of Delta-born stars from diverse fields, including the arts, media, fashion, sports, and entertainment. The Executive Governor of Delta State, Senator Dr. Ifeanyi Okowa, who was in attendance, expressed joy, reiterating the fact that young and budding talents would be inspired by the League of Extraordinary Talents present at the summit.
It gives room for discourse, it gives room for people to be able to appreciate those they see at the top. They become role models for them, and then they begin to work towards living their lives and trying to achieve that which the role models have achieved, or even try to surpass what they have done.
The Delta-born president of the Nigerian Football Federation, Amaju Pinnick, and ace broadcaster Mamode Akugha insisted that investments and education were key to developing talents.
In Delta, we are usually blessed. The first thing that we need as a people is that of how to discover this talent. The second thing is how to nurture them to greatness.
The government too needs to retool and rethink its budgetary spending on the things they're spending on. Talent development, and when we're talking about talent, it's not just the arts or sports, it is entire education of the people, whether it's vocational education or what. So the government needs to think about that and develop people.
Other keynote speakers and panelists, including Richard Mofedamijo and Ufoma McDermott, urged young Deltans to be hardworking and embrace technology to advance in their chosen fields.
The first thing to do about harnessing your talent is to ensure that you are not lazy. Find something for your hand to do, and God will bless the work of your hands, and with that blessing, you can harness your talent.
Technology has redefined what a stage is. A stage is just where you are seen, or where where people can see you on the other side, or they can look at you. Your stage has also walked away from the physical to your phone.
Participants at the summit expressed the desire to put to use principles shared by keynote speakers.
Today actually encouraged me more to keep doing what I'm doing, be consistent and persistent at what I'm doing.
Coming to the summit has really changed a lot of things, and by the time from this time next year, I know it's going to be a different story.
The Senior Special Assistant to the Governor on Talent Development, Honorable Oguzbaba Ogude, was upbeat that there was hope for Deltans beyond oil, as talent is the new crude.
This is the first time we are hosting a talent development summit in Delta State. I want to assure you that we will take talent development very serious, because our oil may run dry, but our talent will never run dry.
Already, Delta State Governor Senator Ifeanyi Okowa has committed to the annual hosting of the Talent Development Summit by the state government.
Inside the Niger Delta.
Founder of Hope for Niger Delta campaign, Comrade Sonny Ofehe, is a frontline activist based in the Netherlands. At the peak of the Niger Delta struggle in 1995, which coincided with the extrajudicial killing of the Ogoni Nine, Comrade Ofehe had taken refuge in the Netherlands after taking the Abacha-led military junta to task in those turbulent times. For championing the Niger Delta struggle, Comrade Ofehe has suffered many persecutions. On several occasions, he was arrested and his house raided by security operatives, but he has continued to soldier on in his campaign for justice and equity in the Niger Delta. In part one of the following interview, Comrade Ofehe recounts what led him to establish Hope for Niger Delta campaign and some of the troubles he has had to contend with in his bid to ensure the realization of a better Niger Delta. Before we go into the real issues, affecting the Niger Delta, tell me, how's it been like, all these past years, having to suffer persecution, as it were, because of your passion for the Niger Delta?
Yeah. Well, it has not been easy at all, because I left Nigeria in 1995 to the Netherlands in the wake of the assassination of Ken Saro-Wiwa and the 8 other Ogoni activists. And because of the complacency, the fact that Shell was mentioned in the deaths of these activists, it made a whole lot of news in the Netherlands, which happened to be the headquarters of Shell. So when I got to the Netherlands, a lot of people were asking me questions about the role of Shell in the killing of these Ogoni activists, and also in the course of reporting that there were a lot of reports that were published internationally on the environmental degradation in the Niger Delta area and how it has affected the human conditions of the people. So I started realizing that the interest to understand what we were suffering was beginning to get international attention. So I wanted to also make my contribution to that effect. So I also realized that even the journalists were not properly informed because it was a remote area in the Niger Delta. Most of them were not having the opportunity to visit the Niger Delta. So in 2006, I started an NGO called Hope for Niger Delta campaign. And the reason why I started that NGO was to address some of the environmental and human rights issues resulting from oil extractions in the Niger Delta. And I was further motivated to do that because when I moved to Rotterdam, Rotterdam happened to be an oil refining city in the Netherlands. At that time, Rotterdam had the biggest seaport in the world. And so there were a lot of marine and oil and gas activities taking place in the area. So I was able to see the double standard on how Shell as a multinational oil company was operating in the Netherlands and how they were also operating in the Niger Delta region. So I saw that there were many things that were not done properly. So we started using the NGO to sort of like address some of these issues. And then in the course of discussing the problems of our people, there was need for me to also provide them evidence in relation to how our people were responding to oil spills, destroying the water and the land, and also gas flaring. So that was how we started. And then I also realized that in the course of time that there were a lot of renowned international NGOs that also wanted to make contribution to seeing the situation being bettered. Organizations like Amnesty International, Friends of the Earth. So we started working in collaboration. And it was not easy being a Nigerian working from an isolation. And so I became the soft target for some kind of persecution. But it did not really deter me because I realized that if I don't do what I need to do, who will be the person to do that? Somebody needed to address the plight of our people on that international level. So I wasn't disturbed at all, so I started also combining activism with lobby, and then I started looking for the relevant European political parties who are more environmentally friendly, like the Green Party, and then the Socialist Party, and also, of course, the Labour Party. So at one time, I had the opportunity to engage members of the Dutch Parliament from the Socialist Party and from the Labour Party to visit the Niger Delta area. So I brought them to Oben, our local government area. Yes. The reason for Oben was for them to see the effect of gas flaring on the inhabitants of those areas, particularly those who live very close to oil extractive areas. So, and then we went to Abonema in River State for them to also see oil spills, and not just oil spills, but to also see how illegal oil bunkering activities have also affected the environment of the people. And then, of course, when we got back to the Netherlands, the members of parliament had to press for a parliamentary hearing, and Shell was invited to speak in that gathering. And then I was also invited to talk about my experience in the Niger Delta. And then 11 days after, my house was raided by 35 Dutch police officers. I was arrested, and I was detained for 2 weeks all sort of charges were thrown at me, and but it was also something that became very emotional, because at the same time I had a lot of Dutch people who stood up and supported me, because I saw it as persecution, I saw it as profiling. I'm not a criminal, so I was able to come out of it in a way that it gave me more insight into how corporate greed can also lead to silencing of voices who want to stand for justice. And then getting to the Netherlands, I realized that you cannot afford to have pipelines running crude and make them run above the ground. Under international law, that is already a criminal act. They're supposed to be buried in the ground.
Yeah, but you know, we have these infractions everywhere. I mean, you can see the pipelines crisscrossing the Niger Delta surface. You know, from time to time, they are still there. They're still, you know, rolling out, you know, through villages, towns, communities. On top of that, you know, in spite of all the international, you know, agitation against gas flaring, we still continue to flare gas endlessly. In spite of the agitation, they cry, people in the Niger Delta. Unfortunately, it does appear that very little change is taking place, albeit very slowly.
You know, there are many layers to it. When I speak at international event, the first question they ask me, which is a very good question, is why will you talk about infrastructural development? And you start mentioning companies like Shell. Shell is a business. It's a company that is coming to your area to make business. They pay taxes, they pay royalties, they pay everything that they are entitled to pay to the government. They pay to the government. So providing school, pipe-borne water, hospitals are supposed to be the function of the government. So I normally tell them that, yes, of course. I mean, that's supposed to be how it is. That's supposed to be the approach and how it works. But even in business, there's what we call corporate social responsibility. And that means that even when you make profits, you have to see to the human conditions of the people that live in the environment where you do your business. And then you have to ensure that you have a good relationship with the people, and that in the course of your doing your business, you don't leave the environment polluted. You don't leave them with health consequences as a result of your operations. And so we understand that as a corporation, in course of doing business, we see things like accidents, even in developed countries. So when there are oil spills, we do not say that you do not have to spill oil. For instance, the whole of the pipeline crisscrossing the delta, some of them are very old. Some of them have not been replaced for 30-something years. So they become corrosive, they start leaking oil. Every day we talk about Ogoni cleanup, Ogoni pollution. I mean, what we fail to realize is that oil production actually stopped in Ogoni in 1993. And yet we're talking about Ogoni community being polluted. Where's the pollution coming from? The pollution is actually coming from pipelines that are still running through Ogoni to other flow stations. So due to the old nature of the pipes, the corrosive nature of the pipes, the leakages that are coming from the pipe, the communities are still feeling the impact of pollution. So those are the areas that need to be addressed. And so when you have such an accident, what do? You go there, you assess the damage, you remediate the environment, then you compensate the people who have been affected by such an action. So if these are done in accordance with how it should be done, we don't have a problem. In the Netherlands, once you flare, you pay. You pay even to the people who are living in that area. We cannot see an improved situation where even the agencies that are supposed to carry out the oversight on the oil companies to ensure that, you know, the flaring, there is reduction and complete stop to gas flare in the area. Those agencies are non-existent, either because they are not properly funded or they don't have the technical know-how to be able to monitor the activities of the oil company and reprimand those oil companies when they don't follow internationally laid down standards. So what I personally ask on those platforms is that we're not against Shell. We're not against them doing their operations, of course. Shell has created some kind of employment possibilities for the people. But what we're against is the manner with which they carry out their operations in the Niger Delta. As a multinational oil company, there shouldn't be double standard at all. So what they should do is to maintain the minimum accepted international standard of operation.
Inside the Niger Delta.
And with that interview, we'll draw the curtain on the program. Inside the Niger Delta, the authentic voice of Nigeria's oil-rich region, will be back same time, same station next week. Until then, you can follow us on our social media handles showing right now on your screen. Until next week, I am Mamode Akugha saying thank you so much for watching. And remember, wash your hands always and keep safe social distance to prevent COVID-19. Bye for now.